The glow, the post-Kavanaugh glow, I feel it's still a little warm in D.C. Feeling good. Right? They had the Hollywood crowd out there tonight at the American
GOP.
Music Awards.
I think that's where people can register. They have 2 hours in some states. Take a look. 2
Yeah, you
hours from
tweeted
now.
it. Yeah, you tweeted it. I tweeted it. People can still register in all 50 states. You can go to Sean's Twitter feed or mine. Now I'm promoting your Twitter feed for a good cause, Hannity.
I don't tweet that much anymore.
All right, great.
It's a full-time job. Who has time to fight with, Humpty Dumpty and these idiots? Well,
No, the basement dwellers. No, we don't have time for that. Hannity, great show as always.
Have a great night.
All right, welcome to the Ingram Angle. I'm Laura Ingram in Washington. As we find ourselves, as Sean said, just 4 weeks out from that all-important midterm election. And remember, Justice Brett Kavanaugh's first day on the bench, and the left is already claiming he is an illegitimate steward for the court. Andy McCarthy has a reaction. Also, REINCE PRIEBUS is here. He's going to explain how the Kavanaugh confirmation fight and Nikki Haley's parting words shows that the GOP establishment's coming home to Trump. Plus, in the wake of the Kavanaugh smears, a shocking Title IX ruling on a California campus reveals a disturbing double standard inside the post-Me Too or the pre-Me Too movement. But first, Hillary and the Democratic haters. That's the focus of tonight's angle. Today, Justice Brett Kavanaugh heard his first oral arguments at the Supreme Court and was welcomed warmly by his colleagues. It was a nice moment of collegiality after weeks of chaos and the promise of even more. With only 4 weeks till the midterm elections, Republicans are exuding more confidence, while Democrats are banking on more chaos. Now, despite the catastrophic loss of the swing vote on the high court, they're hitting the anarchy accelerator. These people truly believe they can protest their way back into power, something the president warned of tonight.
The Democrats have become too extreme, and they've become, frankly, too dangerous to govern. They've gone wacko. But if Democrats take control, they will try to reverse our amazing progress and plunge our country into gridlock, frankly, into poverty, ultimately into chaos.
Now, the chaos strain has now even infected what was once the Democratic establishment. Like, why hasn't Dianne Feinstein, who was once considered a more sober-minded liberal, why hasn't she condemned the tactics of harassment and intimidation used against her female colleagues in the halls of the U.S. Senate? You know why? Because pro-women Dianne Feinstein wants to keep the atmosphere red hot, scarily so, to drive Democratic voter turnout. So just when you think they couldn't go lower, they do.
Trump has delivered for these people on the things that they care about most. He has delivered racism for these people. He has delivered misogyny for these people. And now he's delivered the Supreme Court for these people, which is something that they've been trying to get for a generation. They now have control over all three branches of government. We're going to see if this reign lasts for 30 days or 2 years or a 1,000-year Reich.
Reich. Nice. So if you're not on board with the moral dictates of liberalism, the left will demonize you as a Nazi, plant false stories against you, trash your family, try to destroy your life. And of course, they'll try to get you fired. And when you're President Trump or Justice Kavanaugh, I love saying that, if they can't beat you, they'll threaten to impeach you. Here's the original founding member of the Clinton War Room, James Carville.
To the Democrats, Kavanaugh is worth a lot more alive than dead. This is not going to go away. They're not going to stop doing stories on Kavanaugh. The Democrats win the House. They'll probably hold some kind of hearings on the fact that a lot of people think that he perjured himself during his confirmation hearings to the Court of Appeals.
Dead or alive? Oh, wait. I liked him better, by the way, when he put that garbage pail over his head back in 2002. Do you remember that after the losses in 2002? That was Carville's best moment. Now, how is any of this going to make Americans' lives better? What's the new platform? Vote for us, and we'll spend the next few years torturing anyone who is even remotely associated with Trump. Oh, please. Now, this thuggish win-at-all-cost approach was on full display during the Kavanaugh battle.
Senator McConnell, why do women have to bare their whole soul to you?
Don't you wave your hand at me. I wave my hand at you.
When you grow up, Robinson.
When I grow up, we grow up. You talk to women that way. How dare you?
We believe survivors. We believe survivors. Megan was way hotter than you do. We believe survivors.
And it's fitting, isn't it, that the woman who was one of the architects of the politics of personal destruction, over with Carville, has no problem with any of that.
You cannot be civil with a political party that wants to destroy what you stand for, what you care about. That's why I believe if we are fortunate enough to win back the House and/or the Senate, that's when civility can start again. But until then, the only thing that the Republicans seem to recognize and respect is strength.
This is so juvenile. It's like your kid, right? Well, I'll start behaving, Mommy, once I get that extra piece of candy. Okay. So unless the Democrats are in power, there can be no civility. Yet they are the agents of mayhem that we've endured for 2 years now. This is what they've been doing since election night. Hillary would rather see the country swallowed up by discord and anger than to admit that Trump's policies are actually bearing fruit. My friends, this is all about foisting a liberal construct on America. The tonality and the set of precepts basically about open borders, open markets, and maybe toss in gender fluidity for good measure. All of that has to be accepted or else. Now, what happened to the softer, kinder Hillary we heard from just 2 years ago?
We need to get better at finding ways to disagree on matters of policy while agreeing on questions of decency and civility. How we talk to each other, treat each other, respect each other.
Oh, wasn't that nice at the Al Smith dinner? Oh, so nice. Unless our campaign goes down in flames, in other words, and unless our opponent fulfills his promises, in which case we will scorch the earth, civility be damned. Hillary could not even let the moment pass for Brett Kavanaugh to have his ceremonial swearing in at the White House last night.
What was done last night in the White House was a political rally. It further undermined the image and integrity of the court. And that troubles me greatly. It saddens me because our judicial system has been viewed as one of the main pillars of our constitutional government.
In what way was this a political rally? I was actually there last night. Of course people were excited, just like when a Democrat president gets 2 justices or 1 justice. They're excited. It's a victory. You can't celebrate victories. It's only for Democrats. All of the Supreme Court justices were sitting in the front row, if you saw any of that last night, including the one, of course, appointed by your husband, Hillary. So it was a nonpartisan moment of unity and maybe a little bit of healing that Hillary refuses to acknowledge because, of course, she had no role in it. Now, this is at the heart of the Democrats' Antifa-like resistance. They are actually resentful that the country is moving ahead, growing, thriving, and reclaiming its power, also on the world stage, because they have no part in any of it. Because Trump was right, they were wrong, and they're ticked off about it. Liberal dogma and the giveaway policies of the past, that didn't get us here, to this moment of achievement, economic achievement, and otherwise. Lacking a governing agenda or any response to Trump's economic and global success, well, the Democrats have decided to run on just a platform of demonization. They're now even using the Kavanaugh vote to punish their own. Democrat Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia in a close re-election race and Tennessee Democrat senatorial candidate Phil Bredesen are being lashed by the left for their respective votes and support of Kavanaugh. The liberal MoveOn.org and PAC Priorities USA announced that they are withholding monies from the campaign of both Democrats. Now, if they won't even tolerate a little bit of diversity of opinion among their own Democratic colleagues, imagine what they'll do to us if they regain power. And that's The Angle. Joining me now is former U.S. Attorney Joe DeGenova and Democratic strategist Scott Bolden. Scott, to you first. You would have thought that after the attempted murder of Steve Scalise last year, that the Democrats would have kind of figured this out, that the whipping people up into this frenzy and giving tacit support, if not a green light, for this type of stuff we saw over the last few days, that they'd kind of back off a little bit on that. But no.
Well, of course not. And by the way, do you have amnesia? When Barack Obama was in office for 8 years, we had the Tea Party, we had Republican protests.
Did they show up? Did they show up shoot at Democratic candidates? I don't think so.
I don't recall, but I can tell you one thing.
They didn't.
Those protesters, right? I'm not for violence of any protest, and I'm not for threats, but those protesters are exercising their First Amendment right under democracy. You may not like it, but you had the Republicans had the Tea Party. In fact, Mitch McConnell said at the day that Barack Obama was elected that it was his job to make sure that he was never elected.
What do you think the response would have been?
To almost everything.
What would the response have been, Joe, if a number of conservative protesters had cornered, let's say, Kamala Harris in an elevator and screamed, "Shame on you," and cornered her, and with a crowd of people around them, and then it continued, the hound? What do you think the media would say? It's anti-woman and harassing.
I don't think there's any doubt that the media would have played its legitimate role as part of the Democratic Party and would have objected strenuously. But the point here is, it's not just the protesters, it's the people, it's the elected leaders of the Democratic Party who are encouraging this type of activity, which is exceedingly dangerous. It's going to lead to physical injury. It's already led to the shooting of Steve Scalise on a baseball diamond. When you have the type of language that Maxine Waters is using to get in people's face, Cory Booker calling for the same thing, get in people's face, these are elected leaders. What they say has an effect on the people that follow them. This is a very dangerous game that the Democrats are playing, and they want to. And listening to Mrs. Clinton, of all people, she sounded like Doña Corleone, telling people that what they had to do was to simply be violent and obstructive and nasty. I mean, it was like a mafia donna talking. It was incredible. It's like something out of a bad movie. We will extort from you civility when you give us one of the houses of Congress. For heaven's sakes.
That's not what she said.
Okay, I want to play for you something, Scott.
Said.
I want Scott to react to this because McConnell and the president both reacted to Hillary's civility comment. Let's watch.
She told CNN exactly how she views millions of Americans who hold different political views from her own. No peace until they get their way. More of these unhinged tactics. Apparently this is the left's rallying cry.
I guess that's why she lost. She doesn't get it. She never did. I knew that a long time ago. Hillary never got it. That's why she lost.
When I listen to Hillary Clinton, I hear democracy. I hear those folks' constitutional rights to protest. We may not do it that way, but they're protesting how the meetings and how the hearings on Kavanaugh were held, and the fact that truth wasn't the motivation that getting him elected. And so they have a right to be angry. Millions of women suffering in silence. Are you all like not seeing that? And by the way, your titular head of the GOP, the President of the United States, is not only the most divisive, but his unhinged statements, his statements about Nazis being decent people, him taking and ordering babies taken from immigrants.
That's not what he said.
Exactly what he said. He said they're good people on both sides.
I think what he was trying to say. And at the time
I can't tell you what he was trying to say.
Scott, I mean, this is. I understand what you're trying to do. I'm actually trying to do an intervention for the Democrats. And Scott is one of my, I adore Scott. Scott and I don't agree on anything.
But are you ignoring Donald Trump and his divisive?
Donald Trump yesterday, last night, something that media doesn't want to focus on, said, let's get back to a time of love, respect, and understanding. And that now that this is done, we hope, and I'm paraphrasing, but we played it last night, I hope we can move on. Because this is a good man. Kavanaugh's a good man. I've known him for 30 years. The idea that someone 36 years ago with some unsubstantiated late in the game claims is going to lose everything he's ever. We're going to have a statement coming.
She was lying? What about
I don't
the other
believe
two accusers?
anything
Right?
that I heard from the smear
So
machine. You're absolutely right.
He lied about
I don't
his
believe
drinking.
any of it.
You don't believe he lied about his drinking.
I don't believe
Even his
the smear
supporters said
machine.
he lied about it.
So now,
right?
was that going to?
I don't know, but if he lied to
so does that mean all the
Congress, that's
senators
important
on the
piece.
committee?
That's an important piece.
I don't believe a single.
Let's see what the independents are.
What about the partisan statement and the unhinged presentation that he drove that day? He presented
You're
that.
not allowed to be a
offensive to
human
the-
if you're
Hold
a
on one
Republican.
second. No,
You're
you
not
didn't say that.
Scott,
You
this
can
is a
be angry.
filibuster.
Hold on,
When I
I'm
hear
not
Hillary
filibustering.
Clinton's
You don't want me to
voice,
interrupt
I
you,
hear
but you interrupt me.
fingernails
Now,
on a blackboard.
all bets are off.
Fingernails
No
on a
one told
blackboard.
him to make a partisan speech, and you can be angry. You prepped a lot of witnesses just like I had to be angry and to be concerned. But he was the partisan hat, partisan piece, but also he was offensive in his Q&A with the Democratic senators. You can't ignore that.
Scott,
what does the GOP look at?
Scott, you lost.
That's fine. And he's on the Supreme Court.
Life tenure, 2 words.
But morning comes in 4 weeks.
So and then so you want
you
think impeachment? You want to impeach him?
I don't know. Impeach who? Kavanaugh?
No, Kavanaugh.
Oh, I think Kavanaugh, if he lied to Congress, certainly deserves some examination, some investigation.
Keep it going.
This president certainly does.
All right, I want it. I want it. Bring it. Bring that on, because more information is going to be coming out about these accusers.
65% of America doesn't like the direction.
Fingernails on the blackboard.
Okay,
you cannot ignore any of that.
The president talked about the independents said that the Democrats handled this terribly. Independents 28
and the GOP too.
A 28-point spread on that. But impeachment, I'm glad you brought it up, because the president actually addressed, it was actually kind of funny tonight, he actually addressed what will happen if the Democrats get back into power. Let's watch.
The Democrats are even talking about doing really bad things now to Justice Kavanaugh. Last week they're saying we'll impeach him. Impeach him for what? For what? Besides that, I have to go first.
Joe, I mean, that's see, Trump is funny. I mean, his sense of humor is underrated, but it was funny and serious at the same time. But that is the governing agenda right now. It's not health care for all. That's kind of an afterthought. Now it's keep the rage going, keep them clawing at the Supreme Court doors, which is my gift now on my phone.
I think that the Democrats have rolled the dice on violence, on antagonism, on confrontation, on the lack of civility. Remember, Hillary Clinton just said there will be no civility. That's her position, unless and until we get one or both houses. What you are watching is a shameful display and a continuation of the way the Democrats acted during the Kavanaugh confirmation hearings. And Justice Kavanaugh, during his response, reacted emotionally and I think quite properly. When you are being accused of being a gang rapist with no evidence whatsoever, I think you're entitled to.
He was a little hot. He was a little hot. But he's a little hot.
He was indeed.
Yeah, he was a little hot. I would have toned it down a little.
Last 2 years.
But
what about
beside
your
the
own
point.
president that promotes violence? At his rallies, he promotes violence.
We're still back at that one example.
No, not at one. Several examples, if you will.
Okay, tonight, this is for Scott. I'm going to give something to Scott, because the entertainment industry is really on board and pushing voter registration tonight. Oh, we don't have it? Oh, okay. I thought we had it. Okay, we'll do it in the big block. Okay, we have it next block. But suffice it to say, they have a lot of juice on their side. They got Tom Steyer, got George Soros, got the whole entertainment industry. Poor old Taylor Swift is shaking off any sense of being apolitical, and now she's telling every people to register. So we'll see how it all plays out.
Well, she certainly named 2 people that she would support in Tennessee. But the blunt of her message was really about getting out to vote, whether you agree with everything someone stands for or not, but get out to vote and make your voices heard.
You bet.
And that's positive.
Get out to vote and be for violence. That's what the Dems are for. Get out to vote and be for violence.
Represents violence and
that's what the Dems want. They want confrontation and violence.
All right, guys. All right. For more on Trump and why he continues to win on so many fronts, my new book, I think we have it up there. There it is. Busting the Barricades, What I Saw at the Populist Revolt, is out in paperback today. It's worth your time. You'll love it. So pick it up. Yeah, I have like multiple copies being slid across the table.
To the Democrats.
Yeah, and next has the idea of believe all women gone maybe a little bit too far. Wait until you hear the details of this disturbing case. One of the big California campuses, an individual charged with sexual assault that tells us a lot about the environment that surrounded the Kavanaugh confirmation battle. Stay right there. Talked to a lot of men today, and they kind of feel like there might be a target on their back. But it didn't start with Kavanaugh. It actually goes back to an Obama-era Title IX reform. And a male student at the University of California, Davis, reportedly had a consensual encounter with a female student that relates to all of this. Now, some weeks later, according to Reason magazine, she convinced herself that she no longer thought it was a consensual thing with them. So she filed on campus a Title IX complaint against her fellow student, and the university then started to investigate. Well, the man ended up spending $12,000 defending himself. For more on this case and why Betsy DeVos wants to reform Title IX, we're joined by Brooke Goldstein, a human rights attorney and executive at the Lawfare Project, and Anousheh Hossain, who's a feminist and a columnist. Now, Brooke, let's start with you here. Tell me about this case at UC Davis. Now, this young man, turns out, was innocent. But he ends up spending $12,000 to clear his name. Like, is this Title IX rigged against men? What's going on here?
2.5 months of living hell, of facing possible suspension from the school. What was so scary about this case is that the woman who filed the complaint did not even allege any type of violation of the UC Davis student code. She admitted that she engaged in consensual sexual relations with the individual, but she later regretted it. And so the school, instead of just closing the investigation right there, weighed the consequence of doing that. You know, they could face a media uproar, a PR nightmare. So they went for 2.5 months and investigated this student who was later found not guilty of doing anything.
Okay, Anousheh, to me, this hurts the cause of true sexual harassment, because this is a case where a young man and a young woman consensually go into a room together. She tells him and admits this, drop your shirt. He drops his shirt. I guess he touches her somewhere, but there actually was no, they didn't consummate their relationship. And sometime later, she's like, no, this wasn't consensual. How do feminists not find this to be a disturbing lack, not only of due process, but a humiliating moment for real victims of sexual harassment and sexual contact?
Yeah, Laura, I completely agree. And I don't think that feminists think that, we shouldn't be sympathetic to men. Anybody who is falsely accused of a crime, of a violent sexual crime, or any crime really in general, it's terrible. It can ruin a young man's life, these kinds of allegations.
$12,000.
Yeah, it's terrible. That being said, it's not like an epidemic. I think the statistic is 0.05%.
Is that right?
Yeah,
not an epidemic of men being falsely accused. We had the Duke lacrosse case. We had the UVA case. They're huge cases.
I'm not saying that it doesn't
right now.
I'm going to be able to finish.
Okay, yeah. Let Anousheh finish, and then we'll get your response.
Well, I'm saying that it does happen, and it's a very terrible thing. It shows how sexual assault on college campuses and Title IX is not a black and white issue. It can get very complicated, and everybody's story is different. That being said, there's no need to be hysterical. It's not like an epidemic of all these men being wrongly accused on college campuses.
But the left cares about wrongly accused people, and I happen to agree with them.
Yeah, we all care about.
I happen to agree with them. Like, you find these DNA evidence, turns out someone's been in jail for 30 years. That's a rallying cry for all people who care about fairness. So if it's one person who's unfairly accused, that's a sign that maybe people have gone too far on this. And there's an interesting poll that just came out. Brooke, you can chime in here. Has public treatment of those accused of sexual assault gone too far? Yes, 47%. No, 35%, unsure, 18%. I always wonder about those unsure people.
Yeah. This is a societal epidemic, and I think it's really important to understand how we got to this place where we have these mini tribunals at schools. And it's because in 2011, as you said in your opening, there was an Obama
epidemic.
Just if you would allow me to. There was an Obama era guideline that was issued from the Office of Civil Rights threatening to withhold federal funding from schools across the United States unless they implemented these types of mini tribunals where the preponderance of evidence rules. It's 51%, where it's more likely than not that somebody would be found responsible for one of these sexual assault allegations. And what's happened now, ironically, is there are over 300 lawsuits against American schools, both by men and women, alleging a violation of their due process rights, that they have been discriminated against because the way that schools are enforcing Title VI through these tribunals, there's no due process, there's no fairness. The victim is assumed to have been assaulted. The accused is assumed to be already guilty.
All right, let's get Anusha in here, and then I want to play some
blanket statements like that. And Brooke, I have no idea where you're getting your stats from. And people, we can disagree on the statistics and the numbers. But
look it up.
Let me.
The lawsuits are public.
Okay,
Lexus.
We can disagree on stats. Okay, I don't know what Westlaw is.
The truth is the truth.
May I finish?
The lawsuits exist.
I let you speak. I let you speak. I think we need to be very sympathetic and very careful. But that being said, I mean, let's connect as women here. We know that just as a fact, we think about our security, and if we're going to be assaulted or attacked, much more. I mean, you know, people say that it's easier and more likely that you'll be accused of murder than wrongly accused of sexual assault. So it's a very small number. It does happen. It's bad. And
I'm going to do my own Westlaw check, Brooke, afterward, make sure that 300 figure. It's been a while since I've used Westlaw, but I actually remember. All right, this was interesting. This all kind of dovetails into the Kavanaugh situation. And Cecile Richards, of course, was former head of Planned Parenthood. She chimed in. Let's watch.
I think women they're looking at who controls the Judiciary Committee. This was all male, majority who jammed through this appointment and were so disrespectful of Dr. Ford, of other women who came forward, and women understand that.
Anusha, so I thought they were pretty respectful to Cecile Richards, to Christine Ford. The prosecutor asked questions, but she was are you okay? Is everything all right? Tell me if you need me to rephrase. I mean, I thought that it was actually too easy on Christine Ford, frankly, but I don't get that. They were mistreating Christine Ford at the hearing.
Well, you know, first of all, she came forward with her truth, and she was immediate. When women come forward, they have very little to gain from this. You know, they're usually not believed. They're usually attacked.
GoFundMe page, $700 grand. Where's that going?
I know, but look at her now. She's had to move out of her home. She can't stay at her house. She's getting death threats. What I'm saying is,
send anonymous letters to Dianne Feinstein, who will then leak them. Then. Right?
Are we victim blaming? Are we blaming Dr. Ford for coming?
Don't play that game. That might work on some other shows, but like the whole, we as women feel this. I'm an American. I'm a person. I believe in due process for women and men.
But so is Dr. Ford. But with her truth.
Okay.
This is rape culture, Laura. This is rape culture 101. Let's blame women for men's sexual violence.
That doesn't work though for most people. I get what you're saying, but it's criminals should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
Even get a fair investigation. Everybody knows Republicans were. That was such a sham. They didn't even interview her.
Right? Yeah, they didn't interview her. No comment.
Okay, no comment.
Brooke, final, quick.
Okay, look, what is undeniable is that men obviously are feeling scared to the point where we're now seeing male students also rush to file Title IX claims when they've had
we're out of time. Brooke, we got to stop all this. The men and women have to be responsible.
Such a hard time.
Stop. People have to start being responsible, reporting these things immediately, and not putting yourself in situations where you can't get help from people who are near you. So men and women, wise up on this stuff. Coming up, former White House Chief of Staff REINCE PRIEBUS is here next. A lot more to get to. Midterms 4 weeks away. For a challenger to Trump, that she was going to be delivering that, saying she's not running in 2020. So what's her next move? Former White House Chief of Staff REINCE PRIEBUS joins me in just moments with his reaction, maybe even a little inside knowledge. But first, Fox News Chief National Correspondent Ed Henry breaks it all down for us. Ed.
Laura, good to see you. It's a broader context because Justice Kavanaugh may have actually finally helped bring the establishment and Trump wings of the GOP together, because it was President Trump who never wavered in standing up for Kavanaugh, even though his nominee was a Bush veteran, that other party stalwarts were cautious about going to the mat for when the left was trying to tear him down. This dynamic on display, as you noted last night at the celebration for Kavanaugh, when the president told the justice's daughters their dad is an honorable man, and knowing critics would pounce on his remarks, the president forged ahead anyway and declared that the justice was proven to be innocent in the end. When the president introduced Mitch McConnell, and he got a standing ovation. The president quipped it was the biggest hand McConnell had ever received, and, quote, they don't get it, Mitch, meaning he's now shepherded through 2 Supreme Court nominations, plus the tax cut, of course. Then there's Senator Lindsey Graham, who lost to candidate Trump in the 2016 primaries, and at the time warned Republicans if they nominated Trump, they would get destroyed. Well, after his fiery speech helping Kavanaugh, many Democrats are calling Graham a sellout. But months ago, he told a CNN anchor in a clip that's now gone viral, if the mainstream media doesn't want Graham to try and help the president pass his agenda, he doesn't give a bleep. And Nikki Haley, who you mentioned, has done much the same. A critic in the 2016 primaries, became one of the most effective members of his foreign policy team, taking on Russia, Iran, and Syria. Today, she shot down speculation by Never Trumpers that she will challenge the president in 2020 by flatly saying she will not be a candidate. Watch.
No, I'm not running for 2020. I can promise you what I'll be doing is campaigning for this one. So I look forward to supporting the president in the next election.
She added she will continue to support the president's policies, which Haley said are moving the country forward. Of course, there are still allies of the president wondering why that list of policy accomplishments does not include real funding for the wall, for example, which keeps them skeptical about establishment figures like Senator McConnell. Laura.
Thank you so much, Ed. For reaction on the Haley resignation and the GOP prospects for the midterms, we're joined by former White House Chief of Staff REINCE PRIEBUS. REINCE, it's great to see you. Miss you in studio, though. How significant that
I know,
is it that
it's better when I'm there.
Oh, come on. That Haley said she won't challenge the president in 2020. And what do you make of the way this announcement was handled, specifically the timing?
Well, I think that all parties wanted to wait until the Kavanaugh situation was all set. I think this is something that people knew in the White House for a long time. The president obviously knew it for weeks. And I think knowing the president, he said, get me through Kavanaugh, and he wanted to take care of it right away. And I think it's really smart for Ambassador Haley to do the announcement with the president before the midterms, because if you already know you're going to leave, you don't want to obviously make it look like, hey, I'm leaving because, you know, maybe they didn't do as well in the House as they wanted to. So doing it now, I think, is smart. And I happen to believe, and I think I have some insight and knowledge of it, but that this has nothing to do with any mysterious explanation as to why Ambassador Haley's left. This is simply exactly what you see is the truth.
Right. They were speculating today it was going to be Ivanka, and then the president came out and said, well, that should be great, of course, and the nepotism. And then Ivanka comes out and says, I am not interested, not doing it. A speculation about, Lindsey Graham going to go be attorney general, and then she's going to the chess pieces are moving on the board. But I got to tell you what CNN was saying. They have a theory over at CNN. Let's watch.
The president has just come out of a major political fight involving his Supreme Court nominee who was accused of sexual misconduct, a time when we've been focusing in on the president's standing with female voters. We've seen so much anger from women, and some folks are questioning the timing, saying that Haley doing this now naturally leads to questions about whether they are related.
Okay, is there any relation between the Kavanaugh accusations and Haley leaving?
Yeah, no, it's just so dumb that it's hard to respond. Look, I think that this is what you see is what you get. I think Ambassador Haley with the president and Mike Pompeo have done an incredible job when it comes to Israel, Iran, North Korea. If you think about what's happened internationally, we spend so much time talking about the economy and how good things are going in this country. Internationally, though, what's been accomplished in 2 years with Ambassador Haley and the president is equivalent to an entire 2-term presidency. And so, look, hats off to everyone involved.
Well, Ryan, we have 4 weeks now until the midterm elections. Like, you were running the RNC when the Republicans in 2014, they actually picked up seats. In 2010, we saw, the Tea Party. What now? As you can hold this fire about Kavanaugh and the GOP unity through the midterms?
Well, look, the Kavanaugh situation has certainly helped Republicans across the board. There's 2 windows that you have to look through. One is the Senate window. What's happened with Kavanaugh, given the fact that, our races are in North Dakota, West Virginia, Indiana, Missouri, very much Montana, red states, the Democrats really injured themselves tremendously by what they've done on Kavanaugh. But most importantly, as a party chairman, what people should understand out there is midterm elections generally are not about turning out just people that are watching this right now and either, really identified Democrats or identified Republicans. This is about identifying voters and turning them out. In order to do that, and that sounds like boring stuff, but in order to do that, identifying voters and turning them out, you need the machinery to get that done.
Well,
how do you do it?
Over at the
Voter
RNC?
enthusiasm.
You put this in place. Do they have it?
Well, they do. But what you need, what you need, Laura, is voter enthusiasm. And so
they got it now with
Kavanaugh
Trump.
has energized Republicans.
All right.
Right. The Democrats were already at a 10. They're anti-Trump 10 voters. And so what's happened is the 6 and 7s on the Republican side are now elevated to a level
home.
9 and 10.
Yeah, they're coming home.
And that's given Republicans in the House a fighting shot to actually save the House now. So I obviously have seen it all across the country.
All right, Reince, thank you so much tonight. Cory Booker, by the way, is already planting his flag in Iowa ahead of the potential 2020 run, many are predicting. We're going to show you exactly how Senator Spartacus seemed to be channeling another preachy president. Video when we return. And as the great hope for the third way more moderate Democrats, but now he's morphed into a radical leftist with an eye on the next presidential election. He showed up in Iowa this weekend, fresh off the Kavanaugh vote, doing his best to channel his inner Obama.
Hope is the active conviction that despair will never have the last word. In this new decade, it's time the American people get a government that matches their decency. It's a party of we, not the party of me. It's a party of inclusion, not the party of exclusion. Out of many, we are one. That while we breathe, we hope. We're not defined by what's happened in this state, by Republicans in power. We're defined by how we respond. We do not give up. We do not quit. We do not allow fear or division to break our spirit. Amen.
Joining me now with reaction, Matt Schlapp, the chair of the American Conservative Union, and Chris Hahn, a former aide to Chuck Schumer. On radio today, guys, I played the Obama and Cory back to back. And especially when Obama's campaigning, it was like, you know how he does the shout out to hello Cleveland, he does the very cool cat thing. Cory Booker was absolutely, he must have been just watching old reels of Obama, Chris. And I had dinner with Cory Booker back in whenever it was, he was a moderate. He sounds totally different now. Is this the genuine Cory? Which is the real Cory Booker, the moderate guy or the guy we're seeing now?
I love you, Laura, but you and I live on a different planet. I listened to what he was just saying right there, and I'm like, that is a fantastic speech. It's uplifting. It's not overly partisan. And if he's going to channel Obama, by the way, that's what any Democrat who hopes to get elected president of the United States has to do. They have to channel Obama, who brought together a coalition that was a winning coalition that included a lot of people who voted for Donald Trump. And anybody who's counting people out who are channeling Obama right now, remember, we counted out Trump for a while. So,
Chris, do you not remember Cory Booker was hanging around with Republicans?
Yep.
And he was criticizing in 2012 people who were trashing Romney for being a private equity guy at Bain Capital. He was hitting them saying, well, don't demonize private equity. Matt Schlapp, it's just an observation. Obama was a two-term Democrat president. Can't really blame Cory Booker for trying to get some of the Obama magic, but he's not Obama. He's not Obama. I'm sorry. He doesn't have that magnetism that Obama has. That's my sense.
Nobody's Obama.
Look, I actually painfully watched the speech in Iowa, and I give him credit. I think he's a real comer for this nomination, but I agree with you. Look, he wanted to work with conservatives on issues like criminal justice reform when he thought Hillary Clinton was going to be the president and he was going to be the bridge builder. He doesn't want to build any bridges. It's all about appealing to hashtag resistance and the search and destroy. And the reason for that, Laura and Chris, is the Democratic Party is in this mortal combat. Is it going to be a socialist party, or is it going to be a center-left American capitalist party? And, when you have a majority of Democrats now saying they would like to be a socialist party, that's why these candidates are going to go so to the left. It's a Gallup poll, Chris. I'll send it to you. I'm going to email it to you. I'd be happy to.
Send it to me, Matt, because you're making it up. So please send it to me right now.
The Gallup is a pretty serious poll, Chris.
Okay, Matt, come on. Look, your idea of bipartisanship is liberals giving up their values to vote with conservatives.
No.
My idea of bipartisanship is compromise for the common good. And I think that we need to start working towards that, don't you?
Right, but yeah, I think that's a good point. But I would also say on just to stick to one issue for a moment, Chris, criminal justice reform, prison reform, those were issues, big issues for Cory Booker. I remember. That's when I was, introduced to him, and I thought he was really interesting. But this is what the Trump administration is pursuing. Why is it only Van Jones over at the White House working with the administration? There are very few Democrats, including Booker, because he's looking at 2020 and he doesn't want to give Trump a win on an issue that he claimed he really cared about. Chris.
Well, Cory Booker introduced legislation with Senator Mike Lee of Utah, a known conservative, from what I'm told, to do just that. And he worked with Mike Lee, and they found common ground on that. So they have a bill in the Senate that will pass, and hopefully they can work with Speaker Ryan. Maybe he can,
this is an issue.
In his final days in office to actually get this done.
We'll see who channels the best Obama in this Democrat primary coming up in 2020. That's a hard act to follow. Newly confirmed Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh heard his first cases earlier today, and the left is already calling him, guess what, illegitimate. Andy McCarthy up next.
The institution is now illegitimate. They spent 3 weeks telling us that he's not fit because the institution's so important, and now he's gone, so he's on, so the institution is the problem. Yeah, I wish that they actually thought, as we think, that the court has too much of an outsized role in our lives, and that we could actually have things decided by like the people who we vote for and who are accountable to us.
Did you think of anything about, by the way, the Rod Rosenstein, the plane ride with the president yesterday, and the president just, gosh, they'd be all buddies now. What's going on with that?
I think this thing is winding down, Laura, and I think the president, I think the investigation is winding down. I think the president realizes that if he were to get rid of Rosenstein at this point, it would be like firing Comey times 3. And it would give Mueller a reason to extend the investigation. Why would he want to do that? I mean, it looks like now there's not going to be any charges. They're staffing down. They've transitioned a lot of these cases that they brought to other components of the Justice Department. This is about over.
Well, but it won't be. Nothing will be over until after the election. I mean,
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. But I think the handwriting is on the wall that it won't be. What we'll be arguing about is what's in the report. But it won't be impeachable offenses or chargeable offenses. It'll be, what kind of unsavory conduct should I put in there and how much of it should get publicized.
By the way, Hillary said she was very saddened earlier today about the court, and that this is very sad because it's a pillar of our democracy, don't you know? It's not a co-equal branch of government. It's a pillar of our democracy. I'm quibbling with the words here, but...
Hurts me deeply when she's sad.
I think Andy could have done great deadpan comedy, don't you think? It hurts him greatly. Andy, I love having you in D.C. Come back soon. All right, when we return, a message for our friends in Florida and a book you must read. Early Christmas present, really? Yes, stay there. We have a full screen of it so you can actually see it. There it is. It's out today, what I saw at the populist revolt, how Trump became the juggernaut that he is in the Republican Party. And a brand new preface, you'll love it. Great early gift for Christmas. And all of our friends in Florida, as Hurricane Michael bears down on you, please, please, please follow the advice of all the local authorities. Evacuate. And know that we're with you in our thoughts and our prayers. And that is all we have tonight. Shannon Bream and the Fox News at Night team have all the updates on this, the Kavanaugh debut, and a lot more. Shannon, take it away.